Hola chicos! So today we are going to start talking about verbs and conjugating verbs. Specifically, we are going to talk about AR verbs and how to conjugate them into the present tense. Now, if you don't know what I just said, hopefully by the end you will understand that sentence and what it means to conjugate an AR verb into the present tense. So let's get started. Empecemos. Now, in order to conjugate, we need to know what an infinitive is and where to go from there. So, what is an infinitive exactly? Now, here's the thing. In English, an infinitive is a two-part verb. It's to plus the verb, a verb that doesn't change. Okay? So, for example, to talk is an infinitive. You have to plus the verb talk, and we haven't done anything to this verb to change it to indicate who is speaking or to indicate if we're talking about the past, present, or the future. We also have a verb like to eat or to live. Now, these are examples of English infinitives. However, Spanish infinitives are going to be a little bit different because they are not two-part verbs. The way that you indicate an infinitive in Spanish is the ending to the word, meaning it will end in AR, ER, or IR. Let me show you some examples. Hablar, one of the most common Spanish verbs. It ends with AR, making it the AR verb. So, hablar is the infinitive form of a verb in Spanish. Comer is also in the infinitive, but it is an ER verb. And then vivir is also an infinitive, but is an IR verb. Now, we have to distinguish between these three types of infinitives because they will require different conjugations depending on whether it is AR, ER, or IR. Something that we will get into a little bit later. For now, let's look at conjugating verbs. So, in order to conjugate a verb, like the verb hablar, what we have to do is we have to find the stem or the root of the verb. In order to do that, we take the full infinitive, for example, hablar, and all we do is we remove the ending, which we just talked about, the AR, ER, or IR. So in order to find the root of the verb hablar, we just remove the ar. So now we have the root. And from this, we can build and start conjugating very, very easily. Now, what about the verb comer? Not an AR, but an ER verb. So, if we take our verb, all we have to do here is remove the ER. Now we have the root of the verb comer. Same thing for the verb vivir. We have the whole infinitive, which ends in IR, and all we do is remove that ending. It's pretty simple, right? Seems like it, so let's keep moving. Now, we are only going to talk about AR verbs, so hablar is going to be our example that we will use. However, before we can get started conjugating, let's review our subject pronouns. We have said that subject pronouns are not really necessary because when we conjugate verbs, the conjugation will tell us who is speaking and in what verb tense. So, if you want, you can start using them to help you practice, but eventually we will stop using them. Sometimes we will see them in writing or hear them when speaking or when listening, but they aren't necessary. However, it's a good thing to know. So let's get started with the subject pronouns before moving on to conjugations. To say I, yo. And then tú, with an accent mark, is you, but it's the informal version of you. Él, with an accent mark, is for he. Ella, for she. And usted also means you, but it is the formal form of the word you. So tú is informal with friends and equals, and usted is the form for showing respect. Then we have nosotros, which is for we. Vosotros, for you all, meaning you in the plural form, also informal. And then ellos, ellas, and ustedes. Now, ustedes is the form for the you formal, meaning for people that you want to show respect to when speaking. And then ellos and ellas both mean they. However, as we have said before, Ellas is for when speaking about a group of girls or women, and ellos is for men or boys. However, ellos can also be the gender neutral that we use when speaking about a group of men and women or boys and girls. Now that we've got this in order, let's move on. Okay, let's conjugate the verb hablar, which is to speak or to talk. As we said before, first we have to get the root of the verb that we take from removing the AR ending from the infinitive form. So here we have the root for the verb hablar ready to be conjugated in all its forms. So how do we do that? For the first person singular, in order to say I speak or I talk, yo, all we have to do is add o. So we say yo hablo. And then tú hablas. And then él habla. So here we have three different endings depending on who is speaking. If I want to say I speak, yo hablo, you speak, tú hablas, and he speaks, él habla. Now here for the él habla, we have chosen to use the él instead of ella or usted, but don't forget that those are also possibilities. So let's make a little sentence here. Yo hablo español. I speak Spanish. Pretty basic, right? Tú hablas inglés. Pretty easy. And then él habla inglés y español. So here we're able to conjugate the verb, add a little bit of a sentence, and make a complete idea. It's pretty basic, pretty straightforward. So let's move on. Nosotros, vosotros, and ellos. Okay, so the nosotros form ends with amos, the vosotros form ais, and the ellos form han. So we have nosotros hablamos, vosotros habláis, or ellos hablan inglés. So all we have to do is add what language we speak, and there we have a sentence, yeah? Okay. So now if we want to take the verb hablar and make it a negative sentence, meaning I don't speak Spanish, we make a simple negative by just adding the word no. So to say I don't speak Spanish, we just say no hablo español. All we have to do is put the word no in front of the conjugated verb and it makes it a negative idea. So for tú, to say you don't speak English, we say no hablas inglés. Or él o ella, usted, no habla alemán. He doesn't speak German. So in order to make this idea of I don't, you don't, he doesn't, etc., all we have to do is add the no, just like we did with the verb I. So conjugating AR verbs is actually pretty basic. First, you get the stem or the root from the infinitive by removing the AR, and then you just attach the appropriate ending depending on who is speaking. So if I am speaking, it's an O. If you want to say you, it's as. Amos, ais, and an. Also note that the vosotros form, the ais form, has a tilde over the letter A. So these are all the endings that we need to construct conjugated verbs. Okay, so now that we know what we have to do, let's do the same thing for one more AR verb. We have the verb bailar, okay, which means to dance. So once again, in order to get a conjugated verb, we take our infinitive, which is bailar, we remove the ending, the AR, and we are stuck with the root, which we need in order to conjugate. So all we have to do is add the ending once more. So the ending for yo, just like for hablar, is just the one letter. O. Yo bailo. I dance. For tú, can we remember? Tú bailas. You dance. And then él, ella, usted, baila. Now, if you haven't noticed before, what you will see with AR verbs is that they have endings that include the letter A. So, even though it's yo bailo, you can see that it's tú bailas, él baila, also ending with A because it's an AR verb. So the ending reflects the original infinitive. So we can see that it is an AR verb because of the ending that we attach when we conjugate it. So now let's make a little sentence. Yo bailo, tú bailas, o él baila flamenco. Excellent. Now, let's continue with the verb bailar, meaning to dance. Again, we have the root of the verb. Now, as we said before, this is an AR verb, like the verb hablar. So it also has an ending that reflects the AR, meaning bailamos, with the amos with the A. Bailáis, again with an A, and bailan. Nosotros bailamos bien. We dance well. Vosotros bailáis bien. And ellos bailan bien. Excellent. It's pretty straightforward, pretty basic. Remember, these are AR verbs, so they reflect the AR idea. Now that's it for now. So hopefully now you can conjugate AR verbs, use the handout. Please complete the handout and use the verbs on page 40 to help you do so. If you have any questions, please ask at the end of class. Thanks.